that, you're looking at a sizzling snack. Now, I'm going to take a 20 on this.
Take a 20.
I have no idea what that means.
I was just going to ask you to tell me what it meant.
I'm told by people who are in the 30 and under crowd that everybody's saying this.
How far?
Everybody's talking about
well, if
snacks.
I ask my 12-year-old, will he know what that means?
I
think he'd reach for goldfish
possible.
if he heard snacks at that age.
Yeah, I think this show is being moved into an area that we are not welcome in. We're just not. Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, the Rockets roll. Lane Kiffin is eyeing Big Ten players, and your boy Joel Embiid faces another big test. But we begin today with the Los Angeles Lakers losing their opening game to Portland last night, 100-93. Like the Milwaukee Bucks yesterday, this was a number 1 seed losing to a number 8. The Lakers were pitiful from the three-point line. They were 5 of 32. So, Wilbon, will you chalk up this loss to terrible shooting, or do you think there is something larger here that is wrong with the Lakers?
Well, I don't think it has to be wrong with the Lakers, although the Lakers are not playing great. They haven't played great basketball since they got into that bubble. I've told you time and again, I hear people saying, we hear other people talk about it on this network, whether it's Stephen A. or whomever's talking about it. And it's sort of like, well, the Lakers and LeBron, they seem to be in a little bit of a funk. And LeBron has sort of talked about this. He's been very open about his feelings about play and how to get that team and himself to where they are. He's just said last week, I'm not in, playoff form. I'm not there. I got to get there. So you knew all this going in, and you knew Portland is damn good and better than your average number 8 seed, Tony. And Portland didn't. Here's the scary thing for the Lakers. Here's why this is potentially a big problem, big issue. Portland didn't have one of those lights-out shooting nights. Dame didn't go for 50. I mean, he and McCollum played really well. They had 4 guys. Carmelo hit a timely shot. Nurkic was great early. They played like a team. Well, they got different contributions and important ones from different people at various times, and the Lakers were 2.5 men. I mean, Kyle Kuzma comes in, and he has some good minutes. It's not good enough. And I look at this and go, do the Lakers have enough? After one game, yes, I'm asking it. I'm not weighing in yet.
Well, yeah, but I'm going to ask you to weigh in because you did say yesterday or the day before, whenever we had this discussion, you did say that you thought Portland was a good opponent and it could be a tough series, but you thought the Lakers would win. Are you backing off that now?
Not yet, because they got to win 4 games, right?
Right.
Again, they got an all-time game from LeBron last night, Tony. An all-time game in terms of a triple-double where LeBron did everything except score a lot of points. Is this going to make LeBron sort of reconsider what he needs to do with this team? Do he and Anthony Davis have to combine for 65 points or more? I'm not ready to say Portland's going to win the series, not like our dear friend Charles Barkley, who says Portland's going to win, and he brought a broom out last night and said it's going to be a sweep. I'm not there. I still think I would take the Lakers. What about you?
Okay, so I didn't watch the whole game because it's too late for me, but I did see Barkley in the pregame say, if they win tonight, Portland, they're going to win 4 in a row. Look, there are some statistics here. I'm going to still bet on LeBron. You never lose money on LeBron in the first series. He's 13-0 in first-round series with 3 different teams. But in the bubble, the Lakers are now 3-6. Now, I would tell you they won their most important game. They beat the Clippers. But these facts are also true. They're last in three-point shooting. They're second to last in scoring. They're third to last in field goal percentage. And Anthony Davis stunk last night. He was 8 for 24 and 0 for 5 from 3. So that does bespeak to me a larger problem here that I think LeBron is going to have to correct in the way that LeBron gets everybody to be better.
He adjusts. He's a coach, too. He is. But, man, interesting series, Tony. You got to stay up late. I will call you and wake your butt up and say, no, you're not going to pillow time. You're going to watch the third quarter. Stay awake.
Yeah, I'll leave the country rather than take your call.
No Russell Westbrook, no problem for the Houston Rockets in Game 1. James Harden scored 37. Jeff Green had 22, and the Rockets easily beat a Thunder team that some have picked to upset Houston. Rockets hit 20. But me. The Rockets hit 20 of their 52 threes, nearly 40%. Tone, are the Rockets better than I think they are?
Well, you think they stink, so they're probably better than you think they are.
Don't say that.
Yeah, they're probably better than you think they are, but I don't think either of these teams is particularly good. I think whoever wins this series will go out in the next series. That is my evaluation on both. But James Harden had 37 points in 34 minutes and was unguardable. And I know Westbrook didn't play, but what I'm going to say now, Westbrook doesn't factor into it, okay? Here's the critical statistic. When the Rockets shoot better than 37% from three, and Russell Westbrook takes two, so I don't want to talk about Russell Westbrook. Right. Better than 37%, they're 24-1.
Yeah.
They shot 38.5 last night. Under 37%, they're 20-27. So very simply, you live by the three, you die by the three. That's it with the Houston Rockets.
Let's talk about the die-by part. You know how all year I kept telling you, Milwaukee, I'm not there. I'm not there with Milwaukee.
Yeah.
I've told you this for a year.
Yeah.
All right, I've told you this for 4 years. While I root for my man, Daryl Morey, Northwestern's own, and Mike D'Antoni, who I love. They're just so easy to root for in P.J. Tucker.
Daryl Morey's still under a bed. Hasn't come up from under a bed yet.
I like them, Tony, until they get into a big game and they go 0 for 26 from three. Because this is what happens. Yeah. I sat through it. I watched it. I said, why doesn't somebody try to get a layup? And they don't want to lay up because they want to shoot threes. And they miss 26 straight. And then they don't shoot 37%. And then the record, see how that flip-flops when they go 0 for something from three. And this happens every postseason, not like once every 5 years. I'm not saying they go 0 for 26. Right. So my faith in them, it is so live by, die by. You're right. You're right. And so, I think that series is going to be a tight series. I'll still stay with OKC, even though it looks crazy right now. I'm staying with them.
That's fine. They were just never in the game.
Never,
they were down 8, and then they were down 16,
right.
and then they were down 21 at the quarters. They stunk.
No game.
They stunk. All right, let's move on. New Ole Miss coach Lane Kiffin thinks that college football players that are in conferences that won't play this fall should be immediately eligible to play at another school. Let's try to think of one. How about Ole Miss? Kiffin said, quote, I don't understand it at all. If a kid wants to play football and he's not allowed to play football at his school, why can't he go somewhere else and play, unquote? And Wilbon, I assume you agree with Lane Kiffin.
You know, I've never agreed with anything Lane Kiffin has ever said, and I'm glad to have consistency on this here program today. Lane Kiffin, of course, the notion that kid may be a student also, since these coaches are now more than ever looking like liars, most of them. Our student athlete. And the NCAA, when you interview people in a big setting, they make you say, the student athlete, can you address your question to the student? Lane Kiffin doesn't give a damn about the student part. And this is where so many of these coaches who talk about our fine boys and all this junk, all right, they want these guys to be pros, except they're not getting paid. So suppose he transfers somewhere and they don't have school. He's not a student in the way that somebody thought he'd be a student in his life this year. Lane Kiffin going to address that? What's he going to do? Ship the young man back to his previous location, or just going to sit down around and look at him and hand him the starbursts and say, let's just sit out here on a football field till somebody lets us play? You cannot listen to Lane Kiffin when it comes to the notion of anything academic. You cannot.
Right. So I agree totally with Lane Kiffin on this point.
Sad
because
for you.
The people we're talking about in the Power 5 conferences want to play professional football. They didn't choose a school because of the chemistry program. They chose a school to play football. Is this terribly self-serving on the part of Lane Kiffin? 100%. Terribly self-serving. That doesn't mean it's not necessarily correct. And I'm going to go to something that I go too often. I agree with the Big Ten. I do. You know I agree with the Big Ten. But there may be a price to pay for the Big Ten.
There may be.
Because you could give a family a car and say, could you find Alabama? Could you find Georgia? Could you find Florida? This is the fault, and I don't say this a lot. I don't bash the NCAA. The lack of a national, coherent policy.
Yeah.
The same way with the
You've
virus
been using that phrase
is the
a lot
fault
lately.
of the NCAA.
Yeah, it is.
It is.
And by the way, what percentage, we have to look this up, what percentage of kids on scholarship at Big Ten schools right now, and I can think of one, I know at least, where people do go for the chemistry lab. Sorry, Mr. Kornheiser, but what percentage of those kids in the Big Ten do you think play professional football? 10? 5?
I would say
12?
10 to 15, but
so the 90%, they should just be ignored.
But No, they don't go there for that. They go there to play football. Let's take a break. Coming up, will Luka Doncic and the Mavs bounce back against the Clippers tonight?
And did Fernando Tatis Jr., my new favorite player, break another one of those stupid unwritten baseball rules yesterday?
What about Notre Dame, Mike? They're shutting down in-person classes for 2 weeks. They've said no